Hi guys, welcome to my channel. So before we get started, make sure to hit that like button, also subscribe to my channel. In this video, we will talk about why Venice is Europe's worst place city. So make sure to watch the full video. 1. Venice, Italy is being destroyed by tourism and flooding. Venice suffers from a major environmental issue. The land is boggy and the city is slowly sinking. The buildings don't have proper foundations, and they are gradually subsiding into the waters of the lagoon. Its historic buildings are crisscrossed by hundreds of canals. Venice, or Venezia in Italian, is built on more than 100 small islands. The canals and surrounding lagoon are tidal and salty and form part of a natural marsh flood plain. The city grew because of its strategic location as a trading point between east and west. The architecture reflects the affluence and diverse origins of its settlers, who accumulated huge wealth through trading in precious metals, gemstones, glass, and silk. The impact of tourism and climate change on the city are clearly visible. Walking routes around the city can change depending on the extent of the flooding. If you visit, take an up-to-date guidebook with you. 2. Is Venice sinking, or is the water rising? Venice, Italy is literally sinking. It has always experienced flooding from Acqua Alta exceptionally high tides, but the frequency of these events has increased. The city has a flood warning system with siren alerts and text warnings that keep residents informed of the likely severity of the floods. People prepare for these regular flood events with Wellington boots and raised walkways, but buildings are not so lucky. The water levels are now permanently above the original damp-proof courses of older homes and buildings in the city. Salt water attacks the friable clay bricks, causing them to crumble and let in more water. As a result, the ground floor of many of Venice's buildings are now uninhabitable. To preserve them and prevent more erosion, underwater barriers have been installed to reduce the quantity of water entering the lagoon. The system became fully operational in the summer of 2021, more than 18 years after its construction began. 3. Tourists continue to visit as Venice sinks. Whether the cause is rising sea levels or climate change, mass tourism, or cruise ships, there's no doubt that Venice is suffering. Scientists continue to monitor changes in water levels as these are substantial and real. The marsh on which Venice sits is compacting. Historic buildings are sinking. Stonework and carvings are crumbling away. Tourists flock to the city because of its remarkable history and architecture. A tourist tax or visitor levy has been introduced to help pay for vital restoration work. Nonetheless, Venice is set to become more of a living museum than a real living city. Venetian natives continue to leave the area as tourism sucks the lifeblood from their city. 4. La Serenissima, the most serene one, is under threat. Venice was nicknamed La Serenissima in the Middle Ages in honor of its beauty, but it shows a very tired face these days. In recent years, it has been blighted by cruise ships and corrupt officials, and has become the most expensive city in Italy. The successful tourist trade on which Venice depends is helping to destroy the city. In 1987, the city and its lagoon were listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But just 50 years later, UNESCO is considering delisting it. The resident population has dropped to less than 50,000, but Venice receives 36 million tourists each year. The sheer number of visitors puts enormous pressure on the city's sewerage and recycling facilities, as well as on local transport and accommodation. As Venice becomes more expensive and difficult to live in, permanent residents are leaving. Depopulation threatens the viability of Venice as a living, thriving city with real, non-tourist, Venetian people in it. 5. Venetians leave Venice as tourist numbers increase. In 1951, the population of Venice was 175,000. By 2020, there were less than 50,000 people living there. There are many reasons for the decline, both social and economic. These include the increasing cost of living, overcrowded transportation systems, the lack of well-paid job opportunities, retail stores being replaced by tourist souvenir shops, and rising housing costs as tourists compete for accommodation with locals. Tourist visitors to the city of Venice reached nearly 36 million in 2019. These large numbers of people are concentrated in an area less than 3 square miles, 8 square kilometers. This results in a poor environment for locals as well as visitors. 6. Why are we speaking of a decrease in quality of life for the inhabitants? Until the early 2000s, most visitors would come and stay in Venetian hotels for a few nights, taking a few days for exploring the city as a whole, visiting Venice beyond the landmarks. discovering the local life and culture. In recent years, along with a yearly staggering increase in the number of the visitors, the way of visiting the city has changed. Many tourists now come to Venice as a day/hour trip, as part of a cruise, for example, dramatically modifying social, logistic, economic, and touristic aspects of the city. To make things worse, Venice cannot provide picnic or resting areas because of its small size and its morphology, resulting in visitors sitting down for resting and eating on bridges, narrow alleys, house doors, and shop windows, blocking even further the already jammed city. Even though they are not perceived as such, alleys and bridges in Venice are the equivalent to streets and crossroads in other cities. Blocking them is a guarantee for Venetians to get angry at you. 7. Venice residents dropped from 175.000 in 1951 to 50.000 in 2022. Why? Data shows that the population in Venice has been constantly decreasing for several decades. Several factors can explain why this is happening. An increased cost of living, higher cost of housing, a decrease in quality of life, traditional shops replaced by low-quality souvenir shops, constant, for example, lack of spaces for the youth, lack of rewarding job opportunities. All of the above can be linked directly to the impact caused by the dramatic increase in mass tourism in Venice. Indeed, some local entrepreneurs and several foreign investors exploit this situation to target tourists and generate great profits. Meanwhile, authentic activities in shops have and are being strangled by ever-increasing rents, a constantly decreasing market size of the local population, and the competition of tourist traps seducing tourists with their cheap mass-produced products or frozen food. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. Also subscribe to our channel before you go. Thank you for watching.